Hey guys, how you doing? This is Mike McCormick with Advanced Criminology in Owings Mills. Tonight's topic is going to be off the topic a little bit, but it's still a criminal justice issue, and it has to do with the Second Amendment, and it also has to do specifically with carrying guns and being armed in churches. This is a national interest story because, as you well know, there have been several incidences over the past few years where perpetrators have gone inside churches and literally just mowed down congregations. I'm going to go over a list of some of the recent ones that you probably can relate to and heard about. But there's a growing concern that the folks who were shot, the 26 folks who were shot dead down in Texas, Texas is a gun-carrying state, and one of the appeals here in Maryland, coming out of Harford County, Maryland, is an appeal to the General Assembly to next year institute a bill allowing guns to be carried inside of churches. Now, if you didn't know, you folks around the country, around the world, in Maryland is not an open carry state at all. You can go to jail for carrying a weapon in Maryland, unless you have a permit, or unless you have a permit that states you can carry a gun to and from a specific location, either a security officer or a law enforcement professional, or a private owner of a particular, let's say you own a store or something like that, and you apply for permits to the state police department, and they allow you to carry that gun to and from your store. You can always own a gun in Maryland for home ownership, for protection of the home. So this is a law that's being constructed now that is going to, it's being proposed that designated folks within a congregation can get permits to carry a gun and have it on them while service is going on. So again, this is a criminal justice channel. So we just don't talk about the Detective Sean Suda case, which is a case that's been compelling to most of us around the country, if not the world, because we want to know at the end of the day what happened to this detective and how he lost his life. But we also have to refocus back to criminal justice, because criminal justice is an issue. And so that's what today's topic is going to be about. And so I'm going to be certainly asking for your responses to this topic, since it deals with the Second Amendment. Excuse me. Since it deals with the Second Amendment. And its Second Amendment is near and dear to many Americans' heart. So I personally have my own views about people who aren't trained properly with handling guns, particularly in a situation where they may need to use that firearm. It may do more harm than good. That's my position in this particular case. One of the things that I need to kind of explain to you, because some of my viewers and my subscribers have asked me several questions about what do I know in terms of criminal justice, and I think I reiterated on some of my videos, what my background is, having spent some time on the police department, having spent time in the Marine Corps, having gone to school for 8 to 10 years to get my advanced degrees in criminal justice, political science. I haven't decided yet. I might be working on a doctoral degree next year. Again, I'm bogged down with doing my regular job here, so I may not have the time to pursue that degree. I've also assistant taught at different institutions. I have at least 10 certifications from the Department of Justice dealing with forensics. I've worked security before for different companies. I've written several papers that are published on academic.edu. And just recently I was sent the notification that my paper has been cited. A couple of my papers have been cited over 3,000 times by folks around the world. And so I'm quite well read in the area of criminal justice. My advanced degree in criminal justice specifically is a specialization in police administration, and my political science degree deals with public administration. So I kind of know the inner workings of governments, those different types of bureaucracies. And so for me to explain to you some of the things that I tell you about, trust me, I have good background, considerable background in the criminal justice field. So having said all of that, I wanted to get into today's topic about that proposed bill to have armed parishioners in the church. Now, I'm going to read off a couple of incidences, and I'm sure you all can relate to those things. And as usual, I take my glasses off. Now, I take my glasses off because I don't have my reading glasses when I do this. For some reason or other, I broke them, and I've been lazy. I haven't gone out to get my reading glasses. So I'll take these off so I can read. Okay, now, in Maryland, and again, when I talk about Maryland, it's because I can relate to Maryland because I live here. But trust me, this issue is a nationwide issue in every state and every county. And for the foregoing reasons. And we'll start off with December 9th in 2000 in Colorado. 2 people were shot at the youth ministry. And later, 5 people were killed at the New Light Church in Colorado. Now, this individual in Colorado who shot these people, he had 2 assault weapons and 3 handguns and 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Okay? The second incident, it was in 2008, where a gunman shot 8 people he wounded and killed 2 at the Valley Utilitarian, I can't pronounce it, Universal Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. Number 3 was on May 31st, 2009, which was in Wichita, Kansas, at the Reformation Lutheran Church, where the gunman came in, killed an usher in the foyer. And the usher happened to be a doctor who was performing abortions, and this particular individual didn't like the doctor because that's what he did for a living. So he was an anti-abortionist guy. Let's see. In 2012, we had a gunman murder 6 people at the Sikh temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Okay. And June 17, 2015, in Charleston, South Carolina, I think most folks will probably remember this, at the Emmanuel AME Church, where Dylan Roof came in and doing a Bible study and killed 9 parishioners at the Bible study with his 9mm handgun. On September 24, 2017, in Antioch, Tennessee, the Burnett Chapel Church of Christ, the gunman came in and killed 1 person and wounded several others. On November 6, 2017, a gunman had a vest on and entered the First Baptist Church in the Sutherland, Texas, and that's the one I'm talking about now, the first one I started off with. And 26 people died, and he was armed to the teeth with assault weapons, handguns, and stacks of ammunition. Okay? So there are several incidents here that would certainly give rise to why people feel that they should be armed and ready to go to war if a gunman comes into a church ready to inflict death on anyone that's inside that church. So one of the things that having worked in security and knowing about security and how it's supposed to be done, a lot of folks unfortunately have to take into account that when these incidences occur, they're happening real time and they're happening fast. Now, depending on the security that's set up in that particular church will depend on how far that gunman gets into the church. All the incidents I just read off, the gunman was already in the church. I mean, there's nothing stopped him from getting into the church. So I'm thinking that the folks who are going to go for this bill are looking at the fact that if we arm at least 1 or 2 people, that if a gunman comes in, we'll be able to at least take him out. There's no guarantee that a person who comes into a church armed to the teeth with assault weapons, right, that's firing rounds of ammunition with 30 mag clips is going to, where you're going to take him out with a handgun. I doubt very seriously if that would happen. You might get lucky with a shot, but there's going to be already enough death and destruction done prior to you even being able to put a couple of rounds into the individual. There were a couple of videos recently where you had a couple of ex-servicemen who killed police officers down in Dallas, where these officers were armed, with handguns, trying to do battle with a person armed with a assault weapon. And they were there, and they had plenty of weaponry. And it still took them forever to finally get this guy after he had ended up killing five 5 police officers. So these are people who were trained and ready to fight. Now we're talking about parishioners who, depending on the type of training that they have, tactical training, firearms range training. I mean, you know, you're talking about doing battle with somebody as soon as they crack those doors to come in. I personally don't think it's good to, if you want to be armed. I'm not saying not be armed. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying to you is that there are better ways. There are much better ways to defend a church from such an attack. The incidences that I just read off, they never had security set up in a proper fashion to stop the attack. And so that's what I want to discuss a little bit and talk about that. And then, you know, I'll get your comments online and I'll respond back to you. And I'm going to start off with this, is that in any attack situation, dealing where a gunman has to enter a premises to do bodily harm to anybody, you want to be able to, there's a term in security called layering of security, or perimeter security, where you have to have 3 things going for you. You have to have it's prevention, detection, and response. Those are kind of the 3 elements that you have to have going on. And you want to be able to have channelization of exits and places like that, so that you can channel the flow of congregation coming in and coming out of a church. But the first thing, prior to a gunman even getting inside of church, is to be able to have the proper security outside of the church. So if you have a parking lot, you need to have armed security there, someone in the car that recognizes the vehicles that come through. One of the best ideas is that you can, if you have regulars that go to the church, why not have decals that specify that you belong to the church, so a security person can just wave you onto the parking lot, okay? And so that person's able to track the comings of goings of the regular church parishioners, and if something is out of whack with someone pulling on the property and they don't have the proper identification on the church, then that's the first level. That it begins to start at that point, okay? That's what you have to do to stop people from just entering a church premises and doing bodily harm. Okay? I'll give you 2 examples. The only way to thwart what I call layering is to be at a distance. So you can accomplish the type of massive killing without even being close to the church. I'll give you 2 examples. One example would have been the recent Las Vegas shooting. This gentleman was 30-some feet, 30-some stories up in a hotel. And he was able to, even though they had layered security there at the concert, he was still able to look down based upon his position, right? And cause, you know, bodily damage. You know, 50-some odd people were killed in that incident. I look at the Washington, D.C. sniper incident, where it didn't matter whether you had security. This guy and his partner were intent on doing individual shootings in different parts of Maryland, D.C. and Virginia, and you know, he was able to keep on the move, you know, which was his tactical way of not getting caught. So there are ways to get around the layered security, but for the most part, with the MO with the shooters that we've seen recently, they just walk onto the property and they begin to kill. A lot of these shooters had domestic problems with churches, the church's philosophy. Maybe some of the people in the church they didn't get along with, and they decided to come back and do some serious damage. So I just wanted to explain to you that even though folks are scared right now, that they don't even feel comfortable enough on Sunday to sit down for 2 hours and worship in peace without fear somebody's going to bust open the double doors in the back and start, you know, shooting up church members, you know, without any response to save them in time. Now, a lot of these churches, particularly in the counties, are kind of far away, where law enforcement takes, you know, several minutes to get there in some cases. But I will tell you, an assault weapon, you can get in and out of a church in less than 2 minutes and kill 30 or 40 people in no time and be out of there and gone before law enforcement even can get there to assist. So those are the things that I wanted to discuss. Let's see. get back to what I was talking about here. Okay, so I don't have a problem necessarily, like I say, with people getting permits. If the state police will approve the permits, you know, I'm all for it. But I have to draw the line that it's not preventing an attack just because you have a handgun sitting in the church. I doubt very seriously those folks who are in Texas, if one person had a handgun in there, I doubt very seriously if it made any difference whatsoever. The idea is not to let the perpetrator get inside the building. That's the whole idea behind prevention. Don't let the individual get in the building. Because once he's in the building, that's it. Most churches only have a couple ways in and a couple ways out, especially churches that don't have a lot of money or smaller churches. Sometimes the front door is the way in is the way out. So, you know, it's a situation where you're trapped. You know what I'm saying? However, if you have layered security and checkpoints with your usher staff, you know, that can stop an attack right then and there. So if you had to arm somebody, I would say arm the usher staff. I would say have usher staff, somebody assigned to the parking lot, somebody assigned to the foyer area, somebody assigned to walk around the perimeter. Okay, and those guys need to be trained and taught, you know, what to look for. You know, what are the signs of somebody who's a potential shooter ready to come in that church? In the times that, let's face it, we all know that the only time a person is going to come into a church is when the church meets. So quite naturally, if the church meets on a Wednesday night, you know, for Bible study, you got to have full staff ready to go. Church meets on Sunday, you got to have full staff ready to go. The problem I ran into a couple of times with churches and doing business with them is that some churches don't understand the costs associated with security. They're not willing to spend the money, so to speak. You got to spend the money. And if you spend the money, the results will work for you in that regard. So I just wanted to bring that up. I just want your thoughts on it, because no matter where you live in America, this is a problem. It's reoccurring too much in our society, where folks are just taking advantage of folks on Sunday, where they can just come in and start shooting up a place and killing innocent people who, for no other reason, just want to sit down on Sundays and worship, you know, God. So there's a problem, and churches have to get on board with how to do it the right way to prevent such incidents from occurring. So I'm interested to see how this particular bill will play out next year in the Maryland General Assembly, with being able to have a parishioner have a handgun. I personally, though, just don't think that an individual with a handgun, while service is going on, after a person, perpetrator, has entered the premises. See, because the element of surprise is right there once that person enters the premises. Kind of all bets are off. I'm not saying that you couldn't take him down. I'm just saying that the odds are certainly not in your favor. I think if you do security the correct way, as I've itemized and outlined in this discussion here tonight, that there will be a better result in the end. And also contact your local law enforcement for some assistance and things like that. Feel free to contact my office if you want. It's fine with me. We do have an email address. You just have to go through the channel to find where the email address is at the last page. It talks about advanced criminology. And feel free to email me for some ideas and some tips. I'll be more than happy to share them with you. Once again, my name is Mike McCormick. I'm with Advanced Criminology here in Owings Mills, Maryland. And I look forward to hearing your comments so I can respond back. And I'll see you the next time that we post.